Well, hello. Welcome back to the show. This is BucketPonds Podcast episode number 5. We started the podcast back in late 2023, and it kind of takes the place of our Oasis updates that we used to do. So today we're going to do a little jar aquarium maintenance. We're going to water some things, check on some jars, trim some plants, and generally just talk about the hobby. If you're not familiar with my channel, my name is Bucket Ponds. I've been building jar aquariums for approximately 4 years now, and we're having a lot of fun. Every project teaches us something in one way or another, and we've gotten pretty far. Nowadays, we can reliably throw some stuff together, make a little jar aquarium, and I can know for sure that it will thrive. It will continue to host life for quite a while, and that's a good feeling. Uh, my specialty is in sealed aquariums, sealed nano aquarium ecosystems. We call these ecospheres. But today, I want to look at some of the open jars, and let's start with this one right here. This is not a true jar aquarium. This is, in fact, samples from my outdoor ponds. But we happen to capture, some case-carrying worms in here. I was very excited. But these are aquatic or semi-aquatic case-carrying worms. They live in the water near the surface. They build a shell, essentially, out of debris and mucus, and they drag it along with them. And they act a bit like a snail, and I think that's really cool. We've captured these guys in the past near the beginnings of bucket ponds, but we lost them, or I have a different theory as well. But yeah, it's good to see them again, and I'll be incorporating them into several projects. A new member of the creature collection. Just can't wait until we get a couple hundred of them in a jar. It's going to be amazing. They're very useful in the way that they manipulate plants. They cause things to kind of twitch as they scoot around. And here with some sped up footage, you can see that duckweed moving around a little bit. This helps the duckweed to replicate. And overall, it's beneficial. Plus, they're really cool, little snail worms. And I like them, so happy to see them again. We'll be inoculating some of the other aquariums with some of the case-carrying worms from these samples here. So that's a good example of what my collection containers look like. I take a scoop of water here and there, ditches, canals, backyard bucket ponds, and we check it out. We see what's going on in there. Sometimes they're pretty messy, sometimes they're pretty nice, but generally I take what I want and then I add the water back to one of my ponds. Just because they're full of dragonfly larvae, and I can't have dragonflies in the studio here. So for this project, we are going to be trimming some plants, and I have a couple empty jars of water nearby. We'll also look at some of the oldest ecospheres and some of the newer ones as well. I have sped up the footage a bit, just so that you guys don't get bored. Recently, we had a few people asking about the podcast. Where can they find it? And, I'm not one of those big important shows that you might listen to, that I probably listen to as well. You'd be surprised. But, we have fun, and we're kind of doing our own thing here. I consider this to be season 1 of the podcast with a strong video element. But right now we're collecting Wooddelia stems from our various aquariums, and they are pink. The stems are pink, and they have some nice little leaves on the end. Wooddelia is a really cool plant, and yeah, I'm happy that I can get it to grow in our jars, but it grows very long and stringy and with very few leaves. So it looks completely different when grown outdoors. And I'm still investigating, what causes this. It's probably a problem with my lighting. I need some better lights, but, we're saving up for that. Our Dayflower grows in much the same way, but we're going to separate the Dayflower and Wooddelia cuttings because you can grow them together. They do just fine. But the Dayflower, at least my climbing Dayflower, will entangle with everything, and it can become a problem. It's hard to separate. There's a nice looking Wooddelia stem there, a few leaves on it. The black cow aquariums that we built last year are doing very well. And they've grown a lot of green water algae, which is to be expected. I love that pink color on the Wooddelia. But the black cow aquariums have done very nicely, actually. We built 3 of them, I believe. using these square jars or these rectangular jars, and they have done very nicely, to the point now where we include a bit of black cow in most of our builds, a much smaller amount, but it's working out well, you know. I've been looking for the best options I can have for materials to set up these jars. And let's be honest, I can't afford ADA Amazonia soil. It's cool, I want it, but it's way too overpriced. I can get a bag of the stuff we're using now for very cheap, and it works for like a full year of these builds. And lately, I've also been working with some backyard compost and some different things as well. And now we're going to get a clean jar for our Dayflower cuttings, a mostly clean jar. This is actually one of my oldest jars. This was my first ostracod culture in here, and they've moved on to other projects. But forgive me if it's a little dirty, it's very old. And we'll be putting our Dayflower cuttings in here. I'll most likely take a lot of this Dayflower outside, now that winter is just about over, and I have a few places I'd like to plant it. It grows very nicely outdoors, and that's where it came from. That's where we found it. Making these stem cuttings, to me, it's a lot of fun, because we're cloning our plants. And if you're part of the Facebook page, you've probably seen a few older videos where I just kind of went nuts and I had so much Dayflower, because you can cut one stem and you can turn that into 2 plants and then into 4 plants and then into 8 and so on. And eventually you just have a forest. And it's very low maintenance, very low work, if you're not a plant person, quote unquote. If you can't get plants to live, man, Dayflower is the option for you. It might not do too well in a traditional fish tank. It will grow, it can do well in a fish tank, but in a jar, oh, it's great. Just a plain old jar of water, that'll grow some Dayflower. Throw a few snails in there and a little food, that'll grow a bunch of Dayflower. You'll notice I'm also plucking all the wilted leaves, and I am saving them. I just throw them into the jars as a food source. The Dayflower is completely edible, at least in my experience. If I mention that something is edible, please don't go out there and chew on it. I'm not an expert. But yeah, guys, if you're not familiar with the podcast, this is basically what we do. These jars look darker until I get the right flashlight, and you can see that they're not really brown. They're actually very green. But this is the podcast, Usually I sit out in the swamp shack in the darkness, and we did like 3 episodes like that. And that's fine. It's not a visual focus, but it is a YouTube video, so I want to include better visuals as we have our discussions. So I want to talk a little bit about the channel, about how we're doing, if you give me just a moment. Before we talk about that, I want to focus a bit on this particular black cow jar aquarium. Now, these aren't update videos. These are just, maintenance and looking at things. Very nice green water cultures in here, and we can use that in other projects, of course. But there's a big surprise, or quite a few surprises in here. Down near the mulm layer, I found some very interesting activity when I noticed that there was water meal down here for some reason. And look what we found. A whole new type of ostracod. These guys are huge. They are giant compared to our little ostracods that we've seen in our tanks. We've been raising our little small round ostracods for quite a while now. And, at first I thought maybe these guys were like some kind of different instar or something. Maybe something happened to them in this jar to cause them to be larger. But no, they're different species. They're at the top of the screen. You can almost see one of our little ostracods versus one of these giant clam shrimp. And that's really cool. I'm very excited about that. I could be misidentifying them, but I'm pretty sure that's just a larger type of ostracod that seems to like to hang out in the mulm layer. And I have a hypothesis here, or an idea. It seems as though they're pulling water meal down here to the mulm layer, allowing it to rot, and then feeding on it. No doubt a wilted plant is probably easier to digest. That's my theory anyway. There's quite a dense mulm layer in there, which is not expected. I don't feed this tank very often. So we're going to take a few samples and apply them to our other projects, so that we get a few of these larger ostracods started elsewhere. I'm very curious to see it, if they are truly sacrificing some duckweed and water meal to build up the mulm layer. We could easily use that to feed some of our detritivores. Our detritus worms, for instance, we've seen them absolutely demolish mulm in certain projects. I'm curious to see how they would interact with these mulm building ostracods, if my ideas are correct. But we have exceptional plant growth in here. This is probably the best Wedelia stem that we have in all of the jars. And I'm just going to add that back into that tank because apparently it's going very well. And a little extra cutting we'll put in our sample container on the side. So this is the flower vase jar aquarium, and I want to show you some of the roots on the Wedelia here. It roots right in water. It's not quite as, what would you say, excited to grow in a jar like Dayflower is, but it's still doing it, and I'm confident that we can do even better with that Wedelia in the future. I've also tried to grow alligator weed, which you may have heard of, in a jar aquarium with mixed results. It will survive, but it slowly begins to look exactly like our Wedelia. It's very strange. Yeah, two very different plants with very different flowers that begin to resemble one another very closely when grown in one of my jars. So I'm still looking into that a bit. But I'm very happy with our projects here, and this shelf would look a lot nicer if I were to take everything down and paint it. I actually found a few Dayflower seeds here, and that's very interesting. That means that our Dayflower was able to flower, to bloom, and to be pollinated and go to seed here in the jars. I don't have any bees in here, but I do have a few gnats that occasionally come in with sample containers, and even a few fly moths that I've seen and I constantly do battle with. We don't like fly moths. That's like the only insect or aquatic creature that I cannot deal with. They eat all of our tubiflex, and they're a problem, But somehow they were pollinated, assuming Dayflower requires that, and they made some seeds. So that's really cool. Of course, their flowers only last for like a day, so I missed them. But this got me thinking. There's another Dayflower seed, or a little cluster of them. And this got me thinking, you know, what can we do with this? I've been trying to hybridize some amaryllis for a little while now. I'm raising the seedlings of what could be amaryllis rain lily hybrids. Very excited about that. I keep watching them. I call them my babies. But I'd like to try to hybridize some of our Dayflower. I know that we have a few different related species here, and they are very similar, to be fair. But if we could go a little further, I've heard that you can occasionally hybridize plants that are in the same family. And I believe that we may be able to hybridize some of our spiderworts. But wouldn't that be really cool, like to have our very own plant that we've sort of put together in some kind of Frankenstein experiment? Not that complex, but still, very interesting. I'd like to combine some of the better aspects of a few of our spiderwort plants and see if we couldn't work out an interesting hybrid. Maybe something with the Virginia or Ohio spiderwort, which I'll be trying to, include in our next jar aquarium build. We're going to see if they can grow in a jar, which, spoiler alert, I know that they can, but I never filmed it. I just kind of threw it together and watched it for a while. So we'll do that again with a nicer tank. But that's my plan, you guys. And back to what I wanted to discuss about the channel in general. We are snowballing. Yeah, we're starting to get bigger and bigger, getting more and more views, and I appreciate it. Not every video is a big success, but that's fine. Some of these videos I'm making for catalog purposes. How did you set up this jar? And I could say, oh, go check out this video. And that might help you. It might help me if I need to recreate something that we built in the past, such as those wild, larger ostracods. I need to go watch that video and see exactly where these samples came from. And that's something we'll do off screen, of course. But yeah, we're growing larger and larger. And I noticed a major surge when other YouTubers, especially Psycho Plant Lady, happened to comment on one of our videos and happened to tag me in one of her videos. It doesn't sound like much, but when I was starting out in YouTube, I heard that, it's good to connect with other channels. And I thought, okay, of course it is. But it seems to boost you up a lot in the algorithm as you talk about one another. And I think that might explain a lot of controversy that we see, like people like they don't like each other or something. That would boost up their views. And, I kind of see that in a positive way with our interactions with Psycho Plant Lady. So, just dealing with her a little bit, befriending her in our own way, I guess. uh, but just making friends, it has boosted us up a lot. And I hope that that's boosting these other channels as well. So I'm starting to watch and, not just watch, but share and comment and discuss other creators as well, like the Solar Aquarium, getting very into your videos. Here we're just ripping some of these lids off the rectangular jars. The lids are ultimately useless for us. And I'm going to play with the camera a bit. But yeah, we're making friends, and I think that's really cool and it's helped us out a lot. I wish when I only had like, 20 subscribers, I wish that I could have made contact with a few of these larger channels and just learned from them. That would have been very helpful. I'm still open to that if there's any big channels listening. But I mostly watch smaller channels like myself, and I want to help you. It's everything I can do just to because I was there right there. I just started my YouTube channel and I struggled for a long time, and we're still struggling. It's like a permanent struggle, especially with this camera angle here. But yeah, um, I wish that I would have had some kind of assistance, just something. Somebody happened to mention you in a comment somewhere, and maybe you got a couple extra subscribers. That helps. It gets you motivated, and so I'm happy to help these other channels as well. The more that we interact, it boosts everybody up. And plus, it makes more content for you guys. You get more stuff to watch. I noticed that this jar had a lot of algae growth and hardly any snail activity. So I added a few ram's horns. Excuse me one second. And a few bladder snails as well. I hope you guys don't mind the sped up footage. I filmed for like 2 hours. And I didn't think that we'd want to sit here and discuss a bunch of random stuff for a couple hours. But I am very happy with where we are on YouTube. We are very close to full monetization, which I know it's not going to be a lot, you know, but that's okay because every step we take forward, that's proving someone wrong, somebody who laughed at us, somebody who laughed at my old Facebook posts, like, what are you doing? The guy at Home Depot who asked me, like, why are you building these in buckets? Like, what are you doing? And not that they were evil or wrong or anything, but yeah, every time I take a step forward, it kind of like proves like we can do this. It's a possibility, and that's really cool. It's nice to entertain and to make friends. Every time if I feel lonely or sad or low or something, I just get in the comment section and right there, it's hey 14, hey Margaret, hey Clay, how's it going, guys? And I'm trying not to name drop people so much nowadays. I did that a lot in the last couple podcast episodes, but I was so excited. We're making friends, like for real. And I'm just happy to be part of this. I see that YouTube is going to continue to be a massive cultural influence over the next decade, and I'm happy to be here. I want to keep going. And one thing that really speaks to me is when I was a kid, I wish that somebody would have shown me that, man, you could take a jar and grow some plants and stuff in there. And you can even have like 1,000 little pets inside. And it's a lot of fun. I wish that somebody would have just introduced me to this stuff. So if I get the opportunity to maybe inspire a young person and, maybe one day they go off and do some big things, like that's really cool. And yeah, it's something I hope for. And once again, we're playing with the camera. This is raw footage. You guys may remember this jar being set up. It is full of Nutella macroalgae, and we absolutely love our Nutella. It's excellent. It also comes with cyanobacteria that cohabitates with the Nutella on its surfaces. And recently I was watching a video from a big YouTuber, where they mentioned that, no, nothing can eat cyanobacteria. It's impossible, you know. And then I dropped a comment. I'm like, hey, I have videos of ostracods eating cyanobacteria. It felt like, yeah, like a big win, you know. Um, some of these big channels, I disagree with them a bit, you know. And mostly I'm pretty cool with them, though. Like Ants Canada, love Ants Canada, man. I could watch his content all day. Uh, I see a lot of people talking about Father Fish, and he's cool. You know, I'm sure he knows what he's talking about, but I just don't watch him much. Something, I don't know. We just don't click like that. I'm sure you guys have certain YouTubers that you don't get into too much. I like Serpa Design. Yeah. When I first started Bucket Ponds, Serpa made a video called Patio Ponds. And I took that personally. I'm like, no, I'll never get any traction because this guy just like totally took over. Um, but I didn't stop. You know, man, I just had kept on going. And in retrospect, I should have went back, commented all over that video, and talked with Serpa, you know, if he would have answered, which I highly doubt. But you know, and just talked and like been part of that instead of being like opposed to it. I could have been like, oh man, I just launched my channel all about this stuff. Check me out. And yeah, who knows? It might have been a different kind of vibe that would have happened because of that. But yeah, at the time, I'm like, oh no, you know, you cut me off at the knees. I'll never make it. But we just kept on going, you know. So if you're making YouTube videos, if you're getting into this stuff, it's going to seem kind of rough at first, but just keep going, you know. Like this stuff here, I would be doing this off camera anyway. It all started off camera because I watched a few videos and I got inspired myself, and I happened to find a fish tank. It's a long story, but yeah, you know, I would still be doing this even off camera, and because it's fun, I enjoy it. It's very passionate for me. I noticed that you guys really loved the Polydarium videos. Like, wow, I got some views, man. I even had to re-upload it, and the second version did even better. And I'm so excited, so happy. So you guys like Polydariums, you like sealed ecospheres, you seem to like moss. So we have very similar interests, you know. I put the Polydariums up there on the back row in this window, which will help get them more light, better lighting, which should promote more life inside. Our other smaller ecospheres here, which were 001 through like 04, 05, something like that. I have them all labeled, but they're doing very well, and we're going to put them on the second row alongside our new leech jars. The leeches are alive. They have buried themselves in the substrate after feeding extensively on the snails. The snails have survived the attacks, and ultimately life goes on in those jars. I'm very, very excited about that. Ultimately, guys, you know, I'm just having a great time. And yeah, I did receive some questions about the podcast. You guys are curious about it, and I'd love to, you know, be part of that. But you know, I'm not hosted on Stitcher. Is Stitcher still a thing? I'm not on there or any of these like feeds or whatever. I'm just on YouTube, you know. And I'm trying to design these in a way that you can listen without watching. And you know, maybe you're at work, you're doing your stuff. That's fine. But I also want to include a visual element that isn't me speaking to a microphone. I cannot stand videos like that. Like, I'll watch some JRE, you know, a controversial guy, but he's got like the biggest podcast ever. And, you know, he'll do a lot of like him, you know, shots of him talking to his guest or whatever. But they'll also intertwine like different little clips and things. And yeah, so, you know, I want to do that eventually. Do my own method, my own style. But for now, I'm trying to include just a visual element other than, you know, just me sitting in a dark room. I consider this to be like the BucketPonds Podcast Season 1. One of the big podcasts I listen to. They started out Season 1. It's one guy in his basement, and it wasn't the most entertaining show. But then when they hit Season 2, he got a co-host, and it improved drastically. That's my first ecosphere right there, by the way, built like 5 years ago. But he got a co-host, and his show improved dramatically. And then even after that, you know, Season 3, big uptick in quality and content. It was just fun to watch. This is the old Tubiflex jar aquarium we built last year to raise Tubiflex. And as you can see, it's beautiful. Lots of Dayflower in here. The Dayflower has actually formed many branches off a few stems, which is very interesting. We've seen it do this a few times. And we also have a little spider friend who lives in here and probably eats our snails and worms. But that's fine. Our little spiders, I've never been stung. They're just little house spiders. That's what we call them here. But they live in a few of our jars, and they tend to help me control drain flies, which are a big problem. People ask if we ever get mosquitoes in here. Nope. Never had a mosquito problem in any of my jar aquariums. Maybe one or two of the bucket ponds back in the day. But we have had some drain fly problems. And they're also called fly moths. And as a fly, they're harmless. But as a larva, they live in water. And they absolutely devour and gobble up all my Tubiflex. And yeah, I don't like it. But yeah, I'm very happy you guys having a lot of fun trying to improve the podcast a bit. Eventually, when I think that things are ready to take it to the next level, we'll have season 2. And I do want to get a co-host eventually. Not sure how I would set that up, scheduling and stuff. I had to make a friend out here somewhere and get them to sit down for an hour and talk about jar aquariums with me. But it's not impossible, Everything can happen. Everything's possible. So one thing I've learned with YouTube is you might think that you're an outlier, you're a strange one or something, but you'd be surprised. If you feel that way, there's so many people on Earth. There's so many of us running around that there are tons of other people that feel the same way as you do, with the same interest and maybe different ideas and stuff, but similar goals. And excuse me playing with the camera footage again. But yeah, you'd be surprised, And as you are more passionate about your projects, people will respond to that. In person, somebody wants to talk to me about bucket ponds, I generally kind of, dodge the conversation a little bit. Not intentionally, it's just kind of how I am. My boss at work asks about it or something. But boss is. But yeah, I tend to just kind of oh yeah, But that's not intentional. It's just how I am. And I fight against that. Here on YouTube, I can just exist. I just get to be myself. And yeah, you guys get the real me. We get to talk about all the things that we're very passionate about. But as you develop these passions, as you get more into it, maybe you draw or something. People pick up on that. They respond to it. And it's almost as if, as I've become more eccentric in my projects, we're growing. It's helping us to grow. We're becoming more interesting. And that's just how I happen to feel about this subject. Become a more interesting person. And by that, I mean just be yourself to the maximum amount that you can be. If that makes any sense to you. But that's some words I've come to live by here on YouTube. At first I was very nervous and stuff, but who cares? Just smile, have fun. We're just talking with your friends. We're just showing how to build a jar aquarium or something. And yeah, don't hold yourself back. I saw a couple cool channels recently using AI voiceovers, which is cool. I'm fine with that completely, but please be honest and mention that that's not really your voice. Because I just don't like that. You know what I mean? I don't like the idea of impersonating someone or hiding yourself, if that makes sense. I watch quite a few channels, and you'll never see them on screen, or my red flashlight, for instance. Hang on one second, you guys. There you go. So I moved a lot of the jars down here to a slightly darker area with this old cabinet that I modified. Oh, there we go. Hope y'all didn't see my mess in the fish room, in the studio. And wow, look how unlevel my shelf is. Oh my God. But yeah, I was just trying to say, don't hide yourself. Just be yourself. And I wear a mask, and I don't care. I just like to wear masks. That's my face. That sounds strange, but yeah, that's just how I am. So I hope that you guys are able to understand some of these ramblings that we have on the podcast. Big thank you to our patrons: Clay Wise, Swan C, Jay, Jeff Kiesner, and Ashley Danielle. Love you guys. I appreciate your support. If you'd like to join them and get a shout out in the videos, a little extra recognition when I see your name in the comments, things like that, please check out my Patreon linked below. I'm going to go ahead and feed these jars with a nice slice of cucumber. Everybody gets a slice, everybody that's not a sealed ecosphere anyway. But you can donate any amount, even $1 helps, or you can join as a free member. I'll still give you a shout out. If we get big numbers, I might have to stop doing shout outs, but for now, we're just running with it. But I hope you guys are having a great day, a great year. I can't wait until we move forward. We hit these big goals I have in mind, and I can do this full time, hang out with you all day. So thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.